Hi, everyone. I'm going to take you through a little bit about a Salesforce integration, leveraging DataBlend as the integration tool that would enable such an integration. So on the screen here, what I have showing is DataBlend. You can log in from any browser. It's cloud-based. It's an iPaaS or an integration tool that can connect to many different systems, but today I'm going to focus on Salesforce. On this screen, once you log in, I'm in my specific demo, so I have quite a few different things going on. But for at a high level, what we're looking at is in the upper left here in this favorite section, you have what we reference as workflows. So within here, if we isolate a few specific ones, you'll see these Salesforce workflows, one of which is taking your Salesforce account and it's going to create and update your intact customers. You also have a workflow that's going to take your Salesforce opportunities and it's going to then create intact invoices. Now, these are just workflows that I've created within this demo, but we can connect to any object that exists in either system. We can go in either direction, multiple directions. So truly a fully flexible tool. And that's one of the key differences between leveraging an integration dedicated tool like DataBlend versus using one of those native integrations that might exist. You don't have to follow those specific set of rules and change your process to align with what the product can support. DataBlend as a product can support your process. So you can really map it out to your business needs. So that's the upper left section over here. These are my favorite workflows that I can easily come in. I can click this run button. So if I wanted to say, I want to run my opportunities and push them over into Sage Intacct, in this case, the opportunities are only going to be the ones that are marked closed won. Up top, I have Salesforce open. So if I come over here, you can see here's all my opportunities, the ones that are marked as closed won. So I'm using a specific stage to dictate what I want to send over into my financial system. If I wanted to use some other criteria, I can. It's completely up to you as far as what objects they're going to have as that indicator that they're ready to make it into Sage Intacct. Once I click that run button, you'll see it popped over here in this history section up on top, and it says it's currently at step 1 of 2. This is where I can see what are the workflows that I've run, what's the status, were they successful, did they have any type of errors or mapping issues that I need to take a look at. You can see here it's now 2 out of 2, and if I refresh, you're going to notice that it's going to have that little green dot that it was successful and it was complete. So now I can come over into my Sage Intacct instance. I'm in my invoices, so I'm pointing this at AR. I don't have to go through order entry. I can, if I'd like, I can go through purchasing, AP, I can create journal entries, completely up to you as far as where you want the transaction to go. You can have it go to multiple places. You can have certain transactions create journal entries, others go through a subledger, completely up to you. But in this case, we're going to take a look at invoices within AR. So if I go in here and I just filter, I have it going in as a draft. Now you can see there's those 20 invoices. So it was that quick and it created all of those for me. It might have taken 30 seconds to go through and create 20 of these. But now that they've been created within my Intacct system, they have all the coding that I need. All the logic was applied to it, but from what it looks like in Salesforce to what I need it to look like within Intacct. If I needed any type of allocation or very specific treatment of these invoices, all of that would have happened when I clicked that button to push it over into Sage Intacct. I have it in as draft. You can send it in as submitted if you have an approval process of any sort, or you can go in and also have it just go directly to posted, completely up to you. And the other workflow that I talked about earlier, this one here, the accounts and creating customers, it's not limited to transactional data, so you can do metadata just like that. So if you wanted to update your products, your product line, department, maybe you have projects or contracts getting created, all of that is supported as well between the two systems. In the event that there was some type of error, let's say I was creating a journal entry and that journal entry did not balance. It's going to tell me in this section over here in this history section, it's going to give me a red dot. It's going to say it was an error and it's not going to successfully push it into Sage Intacct. Everything that we're pushing into the target system, in this case, that'll be Sage Intacct. It's going to respect the business rules that Sage Intacct has. Debits and credits must balance, and a journal entry is one of those. If you have any other types of restrictions, all of that is going to be applied to the logic as far as the data that's going into the system. So if I keep scrolling down here on the bottom left, we're still going through the dashboard within DataBlend, but on the bottom left here, we have your credentials. So these are all the different systems that you can connect to. This is not an all-encompassing list. This is just my demo, and you have quite a few in here. But it gives you a nice snapshot of what is an active connection, where do I need to take a look, and maybe my credentials expired. You can see here there's a few with these red dots, NetSuite, Blackline. So that tells me whichever user I'm using to integrate. Generally, there's a dedicated integration user, maybe in Intact's case, is a web service user. This is going to give me visibility into, okay, have they been connected? Is this a live connection between the two, or do I need to take a look at what's going on to get that reestablished? You can see my adaptive, this green dot, as well as my Sage Intacct, that I can make this list a little bit longer. You can see down here, here's Sage Intacct, here's Salesforce. Both of those have those green dots. Now in the bottom right, we have this schedule section. So before I click the button and I just ran my invoices, and I want that integration to create those invoices in Sage Intacct at that time. But in a lot of cases, I just want this to run overnight. I want it to run on a schedule. I don't want to think about it. So that's the scheduling section. And you can see in here, I have my accounts and customers integrating. And right now I just have it set to do it once a month. You could do this, 10 times a day, every hour, completely up to you to be as granular and specific as you want it to be from a scheduling perspective. But if you did also prefer that you want to have control to click that button and just run it as needed up here, you have that option. They're not mutually exclusive. You could do a little bit of both. All right, so that's the basic navigation within DataBlend and what it would look like once it's built out and set up. It's that easy to go in and run the integration. If you need to troubleshoot it, it's going to tell you right here what the error was. We pass through the errors that come from the source system. So that debit and credit example, it's going to tell you right here in the upper right. So now let's take a look at some of the stuff under the hood. So let's go over here to what we call collectors. So once you've established the connection and you have the credential already set up. In Intact's case, you have a web service user. In Salesforce, you have the API key, and you're already connected to DataBlend. That whole exercise between those two users might take you 5 minutes to set up. It's really quick to connect to both of those systems. So once you have it, you get into this section where you're going to now collect the data that you're going to be moving between the two systems. And once I click on this dropdown, we like to take this approach of point and click and just drop downs rather than having to put any type of scripting or coding within the process. So we try to take the technical side of integrations out of the equation to really enable a user that understands Salesforce and Intacct to be able to come in here and build out these integrations. But in this case, if I go in and say, I want to look at my Salesforce data, and we're just going to give this a name. Now, if I scroll down, my credentials are already set up. I already added them in this section up here. So I can just simply select them from this dropdown, and then I can go into my objects. So in the objects, it's going to be a full list. Now, this list that we're looking at is going to be all-encompassing. Anything that this user has access to within your Salesforce instance is going to show up here. That'll be custom objects, standard objects, custom fields. If it is in Salesforce and this user has permissions to access it, it's going to show up here. So let's say it's our accounts. I simply can type ahead, click on this, and now it's going to give me all the fields. And you can see now there's going to be a very long list because I have access to everything within this Salesforce system. But I can choose, okay, what are the different fields that matter for my integration? I simply click through, double click on them. I'm going to need the address. I want all of that to go into Intacct. And I can simply click through each one of these different fields within this specific table. I can collect many tables, join them together, and then come up with the output that I need to generate or update a customer on the Sage Intacct side. All right, so that's the Salesforce collector. Now let's say that I want to come in here. Let's take a look at the Intacct one. It's going to look slightly different. I can again type ahead, put in Intacct. We don't need a name for now. And I can come in, put in my credentials. I'm using a web service user, and then I can use this query. And then within here, this might be my customer list. So once I select customer on the bottom left, you'll see it has all the fields populated that exist on that customer table. You can see it looks slightly different. Each of the different systems we work with is going to have this slight different feel to it, but the same concept. If it exists in Sage Intacct, if our user has access to it, we can collect it. Custom standard, not a problem. We can also post into custom or standard in either system. So really no limitations as far as what you want the integration to look like. I simply come in here and I'd say, I need the customer name, move it over to the right side, status, move that to the right side. And these are what's going to collect related to the customer object. So it's that easy for me to come in here, come up with, okay, what are the different fields that matter? And then this gets me all of my data between the two systems. And then I'm able to go in and create that kind of mapping exercise in the query section that says A equals B. I want my customer ID to be an account ID on the Salesforce side. And then you're able to create that connection between the two. And a lot of these different integrations that exist, you can create them from the ground up, like I'm showing here. You can create them bespoke. Now, if you wanted to, you can also leverage what we call our wizards. So if you come into the workflow section, there's a wizard, and then you can choose, I want to, let's say, take Salesforce, go into Intact, and I want to create customers. It's going to give you these 4 steps. Click through, and now it's going to take care of all that for us. These wizards are pre-built. They're making some assumptions based on the other clients that we've had and what we've done in the past. So it may not fit exactly what you're trying to do, but it is a starting point. So you can always leverage this. If I hit create, I've created a successful connection between these two systems, and it took me 30 seconds. And then I can go in and then modify it. I can always go into the whatever it creates for me and change it for what matters to what my use case is. Maybe I have a custom field that matters for me. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to add that to the workflow and get that to be integrated between the two systems. So the wizards are always there. We're constantly adding more of these so that they're more straightforward. But even if you didn't need or didn't want to use the wizard and you wanted to build it out custom, you saw it's very straightforward from a point and click drop down perspective, and we can get these stood up relatively quickly. Salesforce is one of the systems that we really enjoy working with because it's a great API, very powerful and popular system, and easy to work with on the back end. But I want to give you an overview of the Salesforce capabilities, how we connect to it, common use case with our Sage Intacct clients, and what types of things that we connect with them. All right, thank you.